Hello and welcome to today's SEI webcast, Top 5 Challenges to Overcome on Your DevSecOps Journey. My name is Shane McGraw, Outreach Team Lead here at the Software Engineering Institute, and I'd like to thank you for attending. We want to make our event as interactive as possible today, so we will address as many questions as we can throughout today's talk. And you can submit those questions in the YouTube chat area now. And like I said, we'll get to as many as we can. Our featured speakers today are Hasan Yasar and Joe Yankel. Hasan is the Technical Director of the Continuous Deployment of Capability Directorate here at the Software Engineering Institute. He leads an engineering group developing prototype solutions with DevSecOps. He specializes in secure software solutions, design and deployment in the cybersecurity domain, including digital investigation, incident management, and large-scale malware analysis. Hasan is also an adjunct faculty member at Carnegie Mellon University. Welcome, Hasan. I look forward to your talk today.
Thank you so much, Shane. I'm looking forward to have a great conversation on DevSecOps journey with everybody else. Thank you. So what are we going to do today? Actually, as Shane said, really, I would like a more interactive session. That's the reason I have Joe with me. So we're going to have a more conversational and talking about the DevSecOps journeys that you may have. And also, I really encourage all of you use the chat room and share your experience. And I would like to hear your challenging it as well. This is the kind of a challenge that we have listed based on our kind of a journey that we have been helping to the many programs or many organizations on achieving their DevSecOps infrastructures or capabilities or tooling or everything else under DevSecOps umbrella. We kind of get all this to challenge what we faced. And then it may be a similar thing to you, but most likely very common pattern you might be seeing that. So with that, I'm going to really start to dive into the conversation is what are we going to talk about? And we're going to really refresh what is DevSecOps? I know you heard many times, what is DevSecOps? I want from you guys to really see one more time what we are thinking so we can really connect it out, what the features, what the benefits are, what is really about the DevSecOps. We're going to dive into the top 5 challenges. There are many actually challenges on DevSecOps implementations and or utilizing an organization perspective. And also we're going to talk about the last part of the web. We're going to talk about what is the sustaining DevSecOps platform means. Like we have everything is great. What is next? And we're going to talk about the kind of actionable items from each of you that you're listening. You're going to take some actions for your journey that you would like to do. What I would like to really call all of you is really think about what is it here for me, what I'm learning today? What is the contribution? And think about yourself and think about your organizations. Try to adapt what we are hearing from these discussions and make sure that you're able to implement some of the challenges or some solutions in your organizations. If you have any questions, please put in the chat room. So as I said, we would like that more interactive style as we are going forward. So let's look at what is DevSecOps really? What is that concept is about it? And before that, really, I'm going to reiterate one more time. DevOps is kind of a set of principles and practice. There are 2 elements is really important in DevOps concept: principles and practices. And you heard many times, most like about the continuous integration, continuous delivery as an example. These are the practices that we have to follow, like continuous integration, continuous delivery, continuous deployment, maybe continuous of everything. I heard about the everything is a code concept. But we're going to think about the principles as well, like how can we do automations, how can we infrastructure as a code, what things needs to be done to achieve those practices like continuous integration, delivery, deployment, all continuous concept. To achieve those principles, it is really requiring coordinations and collaborations or sharing the same vision, same business goals with other stakeholders. It is not Dev and Ops. When we just get into the SEC pieces on DevSecOps pieces as a community, we did not really address the security clearly in our DevOps journey. And we started to really call up, let's use the SEC pieces in our DevOps mindset. When we said the SEC, it is actually getting a security throughout the life cycle, like adding all the security thinking from beginning to the end, from concept to the product or idea to the product or project to product, whatever you call in your journey that you're getting your idea goes into the production that user can use. Let's start at the security pieces, security thinking, practices into our life cycle, into our journey. In reality, honestly, what I would usually say, if you do a great job on DevOps implementation, DevSecOps makes DevOps done right, because we are missing the security pieces. We are missing the one important elements that we have to do. There's no choice. We have to do secure application, secure deployment, secure delivery. But kind of we often that miss. Now we are saying, let's get the job done right, probably. Right. Again, Joe, if you have any questions, and I think, Joe, you can chime in as well. As I said, we would like the more interactive sessions and talking about the topics. Then I'm going to move into the what is really the common principles that we talk about, of like what things to be done in the DevSecOps concept. A couple other things kind of we're going to connect the dot in coming up the challenging perspective. When you have a DevSecOps infrastructure, you have to think about common practices, common process. What are these common practices are? We would like to think about more feature deployment, like we are really delivering a capabilities from our ideas and goes into the production, which is a feature that we are delivering and deploying. If we are practicing agile practices, like you know, to think about what is our stories and epic, these are the features. When we look at those features, you have to think about iterative incremental development, which is again common process we have to follow it. If you're not following iterative incremental development and deployment, you cannot achieve the common practices like continuous integration, delivery, deployment. Then you're going to collect the continuous feedback throughout the life cycle. Throughout the life cycle means every actions we do in our infrastructure, in our work, in our environments, either discussing with the team members or designing or writing the code or deliver or deployments. Honestly, every phases, every tool is creating some output, either a human feedback or a machine feedback. Either a human is giving some sort of thoughts and ideas as a feedback, or the machine, like your integration process and practices, maybe your customer, maybe your test cases, maybe your kind of specific environment, it is creating some feedback to us. Then we're going to collect those feedback. We can add the right metrics measurement on top of it to ask ourselves, are we doing well? Or application does well? To achieve those feedback mechanisms, achieve those metrics and measurement, we have to apply the automations. We have automation in every aspect of SDLs, which is another requirement to achieve and DevOps journeys. While we are doing all these measurements or the monitoring pieces, we're going to really engage all stakeholders. Again, this is not just the DevOps. It is not just the SEC pieces. One of the things we're going to discuss a lot today, we're going to think about what matters to us as an organizations. To ask those questions and understand the answer, we have to think about and communicate many stakeholders who have the right to say in a life cycle. And lastly, creating some sort of a transparency and traceable across the life cycle. One of the big challenge we're going to discuss today is about the trust between your SEC team, between your dev team. How we're going to bring the trust into the software development thinking. It is going to create issues if you don't have a trust. What we have to do, we have to create transparency and traceability across the life cycle. So these are kind of a must-have requirements to achieve your DevSecOps journeys. What are the benefits that we are getting out of it, right? So biggest benefits of DevSecOps implementation, literally, we are trying to address any late findings as a result of any deployment deliverables, try to address early in the life cycle. If you're addressing any vulnerabilities, if you're addressing any type of outage-related security, or maybe you're not able to address any type of customer needs, early in life cycle, if you capture anything late in the life cycle, in the production, maybe operational, maybe just before the staging, it is going to cost you a lot, organization. When I say the cost, I'm talking about money-wise, the effort-wise. I'm talking about some customer feedback. You may lose the customers. You may have to rework what you have done. You may have to re-architect it. So now we can really think about those practices. We can reduce any type of security errors during the deployments. When we reduce those errors, the outcome will be really, we are shortening our time to deploy, and we are ready for incident response, which is a great benefits of DevSecOps. If you are discovering any issues, any problems in your production environment, how much you're able to quickly respond those outage? Are you ready? Are you ready to respond any outage? What is your time that you're measuring? If you don't respond those outage and happening in one of the vulnerabilities, maybe one of your dependencies have some problems, maybe you're not able to address some security problems in the work, how much you're ready to respond? If you're not ready, no matter what you do in organizations, and it's become as zero-day vulnerabilities for the adversaries. So DevSecOps is really bringing about the readiness to deploy or be ready for any incident response. And overall, automated scripts, and then we're going to have more transparency. We're going to have the shared responsibility and quality as another benefits we're talking about. Joe, you want to add another couple other things as a benefits? I know you are leading a lot of initiative on DevSecOps journeys, and a couple other things you want to share about it with us, Joe?
I'm definitely looking forward to covering these with you in detail in the next slides. This is it. I think you got it right. It's really about time. We say it here, right? Time is money. This is about bringing your product to market, so to speak, where the origins of this came from. And so this iterative, we're constantly testing. This confidence gives us really this iterative nature. We have high confidence in the quality of our software because we do it all so often, right? So this really just makes sense. I'm looking forward to the discussion. Yeah, no problem. I don't want to plow on too far ahead, but
Yeah.
a topic we want to really discuss is we say all stakeholders. We often miss that point. Like the people that do finances, right? The folks in charge of the business aspect. We really want that feedback to come to everybody because it matters, right? We're talking about paying our staff, what things cost. So we want to know the daily development metrics, right? So metrics are always something thought about late. DevSecOps is now encouraging us, right? This idea of continually getting feedback. That feedback's for everybody, not just our devs, not just our security people. We're talking everyone in your organization, right, has a part of what you're building as a company. And so this metrics is what we're finding out is one of the most critical things. We want to know, are we going to make it to market? How are we doing? Is our funding going to last us? One thing we noticed from industry is that we see successes of small companies, right? Startups. They have relatively, maybe a lot less people than some of these large organizations. And as we'll get to talk about, one of the reasons they're successful when you're a small company is that everyone's in the same room, right? I've sat next to the CFOs and CISOs, and when we're all on the same page, really understanding what our challenges are, we can break down those barriers that stop us from getting somewhere, right? When all the stakeholders are together on the same page, working the same solution, is when things really get done. And this is one of the challenges we'll get into, right? Organizationally, if you're a big organization, you're likely organizationally siloed, right? Groups of people working in it may be different rooms, different buildings across the country. Well, that's a challenge if you don't get all together on the same page on, hey, let's get this solution to market, right? Let's build this product. What's slowing us down? What can we work on? Welcome back, Hasan.
I am back. I'm back to the live again. Apologize. This is one of the challenges that we are talking about DevSecOps. As you kind of witness, what is happening is one of its connectivities, right? Actually, we have a specific topic on the challenge of the infrastructure that happened to us. Apologizing since we are on the remote, and then something got dropped in my Zoom end. So let's move into the DevSecOps challenges now as we are dealing the actual challenge that happened today. So now, and let's look at what are the top challenges that we gathered. So we have kind of listed the top challenges that we have been facing in the DevSecOps journeys. And one is the security assurances. We're not going to talk about all of them, but the higher level is security assurances as lack of assurance in organizational construct and organizational barriers. We're going to talk about the quality, what is enough is enough. We're going to talk about the security skills, and we're going to talk about the security guidance. So each of them are the typical challenge that we discuss. But the biggest things that challenges about the lack of assurances means, like, how can we know if an organizations, then we have to follow the assurances for things that we are building as a secret, like where are we in the landscapes? How are we going to connect our security postures or the thinking to the business aspect of it. Like, where are we in the landscape? Like, think about yourself in organizations. Your requirements is different as a domain versus others. If you're in the healthcare industry, you have a different type of requirements as a healthcare company versus financial sectors. So it's really changing where you are in your organization. Technically, look at yourself and look at others. Look at others means like when you go to the conference, as an example, as a quick overcome, assess yourself. Where are we in this journey by looking others in the similar organizations that we are in? Maybe finance sectors, maybe healthcare. Maybe you are creating some shopping cart type of vendor product you might be building. Maybe you are building a specific devices on a certain control is required, right? So you can talk about this perspective. Next one is kind of a business lack of assurances, means like, how do I know that I'm going to put the right business mindset into the work, which is the biggest challenge. There's a disconnect between business needs, mission, and vision, what that really means for the security aspect of it. Like, how can we understand the context of our business? Then we can drive the security, which is more about the why I'm going to do that. Do I have to do security implementation as somebody does, or somebody says something? Or do I have to write the security privileges or requirement based on what my business driver is telling me, which is your most likely your compliances. Most likely you may have something that you have to follow as a guidance. Maybe you don't, maybe you have to think about what the organizational policy I have to follow it. So you really think about your business aspect, your business drivers. How can you connect the business to your security? That goes back to the original question I have asked at the beginning. What is enough is enough? How much you will do without thinking about the security? Or another question is, how much you're going to spend your time to fixing or addressing any known vulnerabilities? Do you have to do all of that? Or what is your prioritizations? What really means to you? And then you will connect your security thing as early into your requirements. That goes back to the idea. And I bet you none of your customers is not really asking about your security, more about asking, give me the features. But the feature has that impact to your customer. Impact is about the value that you're trying to deliver as the customer value. Now we're going to think about what is the value of the security as I'm packaging up my feature that the user is going to use, what the connectivities are. What you can do, talk with your business people. Try to understand the risk that your feature that you would like to deliver it. What are the risk requirements are? Talk with the risk team management. I'm sure you may have a risk management team most likely, which they already know what is the impact of outage, what is the impact of the features to your organizations. You can try those risks with your security mindsets at the beginning. And third one is about the lack of assurance and security at the project level. Now, you have an organizational construct you have to follow, but remember that you are building a project within the other organizations. Now you can run the security tools, or you can really map those data you're collecting to your project, and you can put in your organizational construct. You're in an organization. Let's say your organization, maybe they have to follow, maybe they said you have to follow your security postures. Maybe the organization is really following some guidance, maybe GDPR, maybe HIPAA, maybe SOX, maybe other type of compliance that you have to follow. What is your project in that guidance that you have to follow it? Now we can really try to plan those security activities in your project planning. Why is important? If you don't really plan those early life cycle, you don't have enough time to address down the road. I asked that questions many times for many developers for years. Why you're not doing the security analysis as you're writing the code? Why you're not practicing the secure coding as writing the code? Or why you're not able to address some vulnerability as early as possible? All the time I was getting a response as developer, they said, we don't have enough time to address those vulnerabilities. Why? Because we never plan accordingly as a project planning. Why we never think about our project at the beginning that has to be done, thinking about the security as part of our planning perspective. So the second is about organization barriers. This is my favorite topic, honestly, for the one of the barriers, one of the challenges. I see a lot of faculty organizations, team member who are doing perfect in the small island, maybe small projects in security aspect of it. But we're going to think about the product. It is organizational. We are building a product. It's not just the one team. It is combination of other team members together. Like if you don't have a poor as the communication with the stakeholder, if you don't communicating very well, if you're not really sharing your journey from your ideas to the product, it's going to create a problem for organizations because you don't know what is your customer looks like. Again, we are not just building a one modules that goes to the production. We are building a product. That product is touching many other stakeholders in our organizations, like marketing team. Maybe you have internal product that you're delivering. You maybe have end users, maybe IT team, maybe legal team. So there are many stakeholders is part of your product journey. So now we have the business aspect. Now I'm talking about who are the stakeholder organizations. So it looks like we are in the same building, but we don't communicate. There are many reasons we're not communicating. Maybe you have a different tool set you may have. Maybe you're not sharing the same infrastructures. Maybe you're not really putting together our same vision and same goals. Now, what you should do, really think about what is my journey that I would like to get from idea to the product. Document it. When I say document, I'm not expecting you guys are creating 50 pages of documents. I'm looking for more about actionable, more about sharing, more about understanding, like a kind of a cheat sheets. Like I need to create some of the document for me that I know who are the people I'm talking about. Then I can really break the silos. Maybe you can get people together in the same room. Hey, we are building a product. When I build a product, I'm expecting your team will help me, another team will help me, somebody will going to create infrastructure, somebody will do testing, maybe somebody give a verification, somebody will enforce the compliances. Look at those interactions in your customer that you need to communicate with them. And also you can educate your executives. It's important, like, yes, we have so many executives in our team members. Remember, executive people, they don't know in details what are you going to do. You have to show them as a team. If you're developers, try to really express why is important to achieve DevSecOps, what you need it. Ask your needs. As a leader, as a manager, be enabler for your team to make sure that they are doing the right job with respect to the DevSecOps. Literally have a connections, like, build up some culture that people are sharing, people are talking, people are going to the same vision, same goals. And then we can really put a security into our team. We don't put sec into the dev only. We're going to put that security into our organizational constructs here. And then another thing, I'm going to talk about integrating pipeline security, which is another important thing. Some probably most of the organization, they are doing well here. We should do, but when we think about the security as our pipeline, when I say the pipeline, let me go to pipeline first and I'll come back here one more time. When I say the pipeline, think about your infrastructure, which is a DevSecOps ecosystems, right? You have maybe resource control in the middle, you have issue tracking systems, you have a build, continuous integration, continuous delivery, review. So you're going to create the infrastructures. Make sure that infrastructure is connected. When I say it's connected, all the tools should communicate each other's. You have a repository management. Repository management should be able to communicate with your build server, with your messaging, with issue tracking systems. Many other things are really connected in a tool perspective. Then once you connect it, then you can apply threat modeling, static analysis, dynamic analysis, or web or interactive application security analysis. You can put many analysis into your pipeline. So if you don't put a right pipeline as created based on your organization requirements, you may not be able to achieve automations. You may not be able to achieve the test cases. You may not be able to achieve right connection with your organizational communications. Like, as we said a couple of minutes ago, you may have a great communication with your collaboration with your team member. If your tool is not communicating as it is designed, no matter what you share as a team, the tool is becoming a barrier for you. So try to think about the tool integrations to overcome a pipeline security problems. Right? Then you can design your infrastructure to make sure that you're securely designing infrastructures in that topic. So I'm sure, Joe, you have a lot of things to say about integrating security like SBOM or creating a model of your pipelines that we have done many times through the SCI.
100%. I mean, this is where the magic happens, right? DevSecOps really didn't exist until we typically think of tools, right? All these tools, and there's hundreds in the landscape. It can get real complex, but the simplicity is really this. We talked about a little bit about transparency. This is where it happens, right? Everyone can see what the organization is doing. Really important, right? Our tools have to connect. I need all my users using that same tool. You know, like I said, business, security. If they are, they understand where the issues are, right? We understand what's holding us up or what's working real well too. The tools, the pipeline, this continuous integration idea, this is where we ensure quality, ensure security, right? This is where we actually have all the stakeholders say, right? The say they have in the product we're building. This is where we automate it in this pipeline, right? So in essence, this is a pretty simple concept, Hasan. We've been doing this for years in software engineering. It's just now, right, some of the technology is really caught up. We have these great tools that everyone can use. You don't have to be a developer to get in there and understand what's happening. We want data, right, to provide to our non-technical folks, right? We need metrics dashboards that are easy to read and understand what's happening. The pipeline's where the magic happens. It's often where we struggle, right? It can be hard to do. Right? This landscape is huge, which means it's complex. So again, we need all hands on deck to understand what we're trying to do here and make it simple.
And Joe, you did a great point, actually. You said that, but the magic things happen. Sometimes it's very time consuming to build up that magic. The magic is not happening right away. You're going to design this pipeline based on your business, based on your technical. Maybe we can have another webinar to really dive into how to construct the right infrastructures as a DevSecOps ecosystems to make
100%. Yeah, we talk about Sprint Zero and Agile, right? This idea of
I agree.
Chicken and egg. There's a lot of, getting to that first step. Like when we start planning, when we talked about, you talk about planning security, planning all these features, that's really important, right? Threat modeling, that's how I really plan my security requirements. I think about what's going to happen if I get hacked? What's the implications of these things? We think of threat modeling as some activity that happens in a pipeline, but truly it's pre-planning, right? We sit down with teams of experts on both sides. We need security experts. We need devs that actually have security-minded mindsets, right? They have to be thinking about this. We have to plan, what are the implications of using a particular tool? Devs grab tools, right? We grab open source things all the time. We bring them in. We need to put a halt on that and say, hey, here's our policy for how we vet open source software, right? We need security folks to look at, this is what we need to do in order to build secure quality software, right? These are planning events. These things have to happen before we decide on a pipeline, decide on tools. It's tightly coupled to our application too, right? There's no one size fits all. There's a lot of general things you want to do, but you have to tailor it to your product, right? So there's a lot of initial work up here. And we don't get into cost estimation, Hasan, but a lot of people are interested. What's this cost to start? That I'd like to get some measurements on. Here's what it's really going to take before you can hit the ground running. And the bigger you are, the harder this is, right? I think the small teams, the easier it is, but only because you're all there working hard, right? You see all the things you have to do.
Great point, Joe. I love that. And honestly, we're going to think about not just the silo working as one of the pipeline. Think about the journeys, other thing organization that you will do. It's all connected. It's a great topic. Maybe you can spend another hour on this one, maybe as a follow-on webinars. Now I'm going to move on to the next one is about the security as a priority.
Hey, Hasan,
Yes.
sorry to jump in. Can we address something just in the chat real quick before?
Exactly. Yes, we should. Love it.
One was just a comment from earlier in the webcast, just kind of a recap to make sure they're following the information correctly. It was just a recap. DevSec, and this is a comment and a question. DevSecOps helps build more resilient and robust projects now that security is implemented alongside the development cycle rather than the end. Is that the correct summary?
I'm going to chime in here, and it is correct. And another things, we have another challenge we're going to list quickly. I think it's coming up, the next one. Actually, perfect. The next one is about the quality. We don't often treat the secret as one of the quality attributes. DevSecOps doesn't mean we're going to deliver a product faster and quicker, ignoring the quality. We're going to think about quality as part of our life cycle. So I agree, and we're going to talk about more quality shortly, Shane.
And that was just the next comment. Dennis chimed in that security should be a feature. Just your response to that.
Likely, yes. That be a feature that we can put as part of our planning, which goes back to the right on the screen right now. We're going to talk about making secrets a priority. That's going to be one of the features. There are techniques and ideas we have to do, so we're going to discuss those ideas shortly. Yes, I agree 100%.
Yeah. DevOps always meant to have security in there, but we have to call it out, right? That's why we're saying DevSecOps. We're just saying, hey, it's a first-class citizen. It's part of our product. I think most of industry is acknowledging that the companies that build software should be reliable for the security of it, not the end user who's often they're said, hey, it's up to you. You know, if we get hacked, we're sorry. Maybe you should have used a better password. We're hearing this, but more and more we're asking companies to be responsible for building quality software. That's where we're headed. I think that's the right place.
Yep.
Right, we got a couple more comments, but we'll get to them a little bit later, Hasan. So you guys can move on. Thank you.
So now let's take it from here about making a priority of security, which is organization. They have to really think about my priority as the secret also. It like goes back to the one of the command came from the chat room. It's a feature, but if you don't feature security as your product, as one of the abilities, one of the component, that has to be organizational decision. Like what that really means goes back to the poor stakeholder communication problems. And if you don't plan it, you cannot make it a priority. If you don't make it a feature that you have to have it, you cannot make it achievable. You cannot enforce the developer to do it. It's too late. You cannot design the security if you don't design properly at the beginning. Actually, one of the top 10 vulnerabilities as listed from OWASP, it was really a design problem. How can you design securely? You have to plan it. You have to put it as a feature that make it a priority for your organization, and that you have to follow it. Now, there are executive orders that came from the White House level, like we have to follow as an organization for bill of materials, and we are responsible as an organization to deliver a secure product. It is not a choice anymore. We have to do it. But how you do it, you have to make it a prioritization as an organizational construct. So a couple other things, we're going to dive into the lack of quality, which is another big challenge. And we are really bringing about a kind of a security late in the life cycle. So we are not addressing the quality as we are moving forward to the production. So what it really means, like we captured some vulnerabilities late. When I say late, sometimes 2 days is also late. Like think about the developers. They are creating a continuous integration fashion when they build up the capabilities, right? Now, when we think about a continuous integration, what that really means, every code change goes into the repository. We have a code review, and then we do the continuous integrations. Perfect. It just does a lot of testings and everything else. Now, team are following potential agile practices and using a Scrum. Maybe they have a 2-week sprint that they may have. Within that 2-week sprint, if they do a Scrum every day, developer needs to know any problems as early as possible. As a team, as the SEC team, we are analyzing the code a month later, maybe 2 months late, maybe just before to deploy into the production. I'm not going to approve this project or product because you have not addressed those vulnerabilities. Your container image has some vulnerabilities. You're not following the latest version of some dependencies. Let me go back, change the dependencies. Asking that questions late in the life cycle, just before the production, it is going to be a tremendous work, and pushback from developers, it will be very difficult.
And as you found out, Hasan, right? If you find things late, it costs you more money.
Exactly.
Right? The later you find these things, the more expensive it is to your organization.
Then the result will be lack of quality, because what you're going to do, you're going to patch those vulnerabilities, patch those dependencies. You're basically sacrificing your quality, and it's becoming a security defect product. You're trying to mitigate those qualities in different aspects of, which is creating a problem for you. And now, when you ignore the quality kind of unintentionally, and you're kind of releasing the product as you're not feeling as confident. So now you're basically putting your change and advisory board as approved at gates, and you're trying to automate some of the stuff, but you already build up bad practices up to a moment. You cannot really release as a confident. You're just going to release as with the risks, and then you are trying to audit yourself, which is too bad. Now, you can really increase your confidence in the release to make sure that you're delivering quality. Again, not every deployment should be released. There's a concept of delivery, the concept of deployment. End of the day, somebody has to approve your release. Okay, release means it is ready to go. I already did what all the practices are, and based on my organizational construct, based on my regulations, based on my approval, somebody has to approve those changes. And some of the changes can go automatically into the production environment, depends on the change size. Some of them, maybe new features, has to get approved. So now we really ask yourself, how can I increase the confidence on the release? And other things we kind of ignore, and we're not paying enough attention, how much I'm going to trust my release as the version is the right version goes into production environments. What you should do, you can audit every steps. You can prep yourself as the compliance perspective, what is requirements. And you can establish some sort of traceability that goes back to one of the features DevOps is offering, from beginning to IDS to the production, trace everything in your life cycle. Then you can have a confidence in your release. When I say trace everything, I'm talking about the code, I'm talking about the artifacts, I'm talking about the pipeline, I'm talking about the test cases. Everything should be packaged together. Let me tell you one example, like if there's an incident happen in your production environment, do you have a right version that is running? Do you have a right components that you're using it? Do you have a right configuration that you may have? So you can think about as full traceability on your product as running a version. That version has all the artifacts together. That will create some confidence in release. And then system complexity is another very challenging one that you can achieve. Now we're not really creating a product as one of the modules. It is dependent on each other's. Let's say you have a kind of a multiple APIs, you have a microservices are you're delivering into your production environment. How do you know that each of the services are following the right security controls? How do you know that each of the APIs are following the same or centralized communications? How do you know that they are following the security policies that you enforce in organizations? So what you should do, really put some policies in your code, in your architectures, in your microservices, with integrating common services to your environment, and with collecting right metrics, with collecting the right data, so you can look at all the components as throughout the system complexities. So Joe, I think you have done so many quality work at your past in terms of testings, in terms of improving. I know you have many testing that you're maybe enforced the people to improve the quality of the product. You want to say a few words about the quality?
Sure. And the more complex your system is, right? You're dealing with hardware integrations. Again, DevOps is the idea of we're constantly testing, right? And so when the world as it gets complex, I need to do the same thing. I need enough environments that are production-like. Like, how do you test production, Hasan? Well, you have an environment that's not production that looks like production, right? You're actually making sure that you can respond to current threats, right? The things that you care about, you need an environment where you could test that. And so let's go back to saying, if you have those environments, right, that allow you high confidence of what you're going to produce, well, your expense just went up, right? Now I need the same tools in these different environments. I think this is where, as consumers and companies, we need to get smart. We need to ask our vendors to not overcharge us to use their tool in multiple places, right? That's often the barrier we're seeing here, right? I have this particular tool that allows me to monitor my production environment, to know whether I'm secure, to whether I have quality. Well, to really know how to do that tool well, I need to use it in a test environment. That shouldn't cost me more. Here's where we got to start saying, hey, how can I use your tool? I need to be well trained on it. I can't just do it in production. I need to learn about it in the staging environment. Here's where I'd like to see some advances, right? A lot of our programs that we work with, this is a challenge for them. I don't have this security tool. I only have one instance of it. That's not quite working for us, is it, Hasan?
I agree. It's not working. Correct. So I'm going to move to the next one about the lack of security skills. This is another important challenges you might be facing in organizations. And yes, we would like to use it. We would like to build up the tools. We would like to build up our infrastructures. You can. Probably you may be contracting, maybe you're getting everything else. But end of the day, you human, as people, as developers, as architects, as scrum masters, we are doing the work, which we should have right vocabularies we have to follow it, like a skills. When I say vocabularies, it may be some knowledge, it may be some kind of a common understanding, like asking for a developer writing a secure coding. It is not just ask, we have to do certain things. Let's start from the business aspect, like what is the lack of security skills in business? Typically business managers or the salespersons, they have to use the vocabularies of security. They have to have a understanding. Again, we're not expecting everybody expert of everything, but at least they should able to give some risks or understand the security requirements or educate the people. Or think about as the planning perspective, think about architectural elements as building our business, as creating our organization. You may be creating some risk metrics in your organization that you have risk management team. Try to really connect the organizational risks and what the security requirement looks like. Let's say I'm an acquisition team, I'm buying a product. Let us ask the bill of materials as we are acquiring a product, which is one element. We should do that. Why? We can ask really questions on what are the requirements I can ask from my vendors. Maybe you are talking with your cloud providers. Make sure that you are acquiring the right security practices when you're acquiring some product from cloud environment. So basically, you're going to think about what are the risks are, what the security requirements is requiring to achieve those risks, talk about it. And for developers, which is very, very interesting because we're thinking about developer knows everything. Remember, developer really knows to write the code. And almost every universities, and including CMU, I'm a faculty member, developers really knows how to write a good code. They are not trained for security features that they would like to write. Let's say if somebody is writing a code and using a specific language, what are the security practices looks like for those security practices that people has to achieve on certain language? Like if I'm writing a code in Python, then I have to follow the security practice for Python code. If I'm writing a code in C++, I have to follow the security principles as the coder. It's not taught at the university level or in a program because it's more about focusing on feature developments. Now, adding a security as a developer thinking, it takes time to learn. It takes time to get some practice. We're going to think about kind of an organization. We can say, let's try to motivate. Let's try to build up a security skills we can apply into our organization, or we can apply to the team member. Team member can be a security champions. We can put some security trainings. we can let the people utilize any resources to build up the skills. So we're going to build up our organizational learning with respect to security. Like, ask yourself, what are the top 10 vulnerabilities we have to address in our organizations? What are the top 10 CVEs? What are the top 10 CWEs that we have to follow? Look at your organization and do some inventory. Ask about what are the language that we are using it. Look at all the language, maybe Java, maybe C, maybe C++, maybe Python, maybe AngularJS. Now, as an organization leader, which is organization barrier, try to get a training from your HR department that's relevant to language that people are using it. Don't assume that developer knows everything. It's a wrong assumptions. It's a big challenge. We're expecting, you got to do your job because I have a developer. No, it's too late. You have to educate them. If we are using any static analysis tools, it's great to use it. Is that static analysis tool is giving enough information for developer to utilize in their coding? Do I know what a SQL injection means? Can somebody tell me as a developer, where can I find information about SQL injections? Let the tool share information with your developer for the specific implementation needs to be done, right? And another one is the auditors. Yes, we were asking our auditors. We love auditors. It's great. Auditors are following our maybe practices. Now auditors they're looking for our code, maybe our product. They're saying yes or no, but they don't have right security skills. Like if auditor is asking about a quick Excel file and I'm going to go yes, 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 no on certain features, that's not the right way of doing some auditing. Make sure that auditing and developer or team member have a strong relationship. Explain what you have done. Educate your auditors. When I say educate means, I'm not saying they don't know, but they know what they're asking about it. They may not enough knowledgeable in your architecture, in your systems. There are many frameworks available from OWASP, Top 10, or NIST, or ISO, or 2675 DevOps standard. There are many standards available. Let them use those same vocabularies. And other things, basically, try to supply information to the auditor they're asking about it. If I'm an AO in DoD, they're asking about the continuous AT approval, make sure that AO is able to get enough artifacts from your pipeline as maybe a report, maybe the test cases, maybe a security result, maybe some business prioritization with respect to the risk. Look at all those artifacts and plan it. And also make sure that you're discussing with auditors as a team together. Don't make it a silos in environments.
Really good point, Hasan.
Yep, and the fifth one is about the security guidance, which is the last challenge. And we'll look at time check. I think we have enough time, right? Cover up. So in the fifth one is about the insufficient security guidance. We are asking to do everything in our organizations. We cannot. When I say we cannot, you may not be following every possible security activities in the world. It is in realistics. We have to look at what are the security resources we have to follow. Like organizations, look at your compliances, look at your policies, look at what you have. If you don't have, try to build it, and now implement those in your product, in your capability that you would like to do, right? Policy is important to drive your security. Let's say you're going to do the zero trust. You may be following zero trust policies. How are you going to implement zero trust in your organizations? Now you need resources. You need to have a guidance. You need to have some sort of overarching mechanisms tied with the organizational business, map those into your product, into your capabilities. There are a lot of examples in industries. We don't follow those policies and guidance. We are thinking as a siloed, as a team, as a product team, or the team members. And then we are creating a product. That product doesn't have security in it as one of the qualities. So basically, we are failing and not enough following the resource organizationals. And also ask yourself, what is our security journey as an organization? So what are we doing for year one? Where are we going to in the year 2 and year 3 and year 4? We can go up and up, make sure that we are delivering all the capabilities time. And another one is the security standards. I heard so many stories on the topic as well. you do want to create a new standards for your organization. You think that I'm a unique, but you're not. You're one of the entities in a bigger landscape as we are building a product. So instead of recreating something for yourself as the guidance, use the existing one, try to tailor to your needs. Look at OS Top 10. Look at what are the tailor means for your organizations. How can you implement those frameworks and guidance under CI practices? Like you can set up the gateways or the rules under static analysis. You can apply those security controls and based on what the policies looks like, what the framework looks like. And always ask yourself what the tailoring I should do to make sure my organization is going to follow as tailor instead of recreating. Then you can create your policies based on the tailoring of known standards. Then you can build up the security standard for your organizations. So basically, you're taking the policies into the workflow from beginning to end, creating a security stories. Maybe you're creating some other components, maybe adding those guardrails, maybe changing your static analysis gate or some of the thresholds based on what matters to you. Last things about the monitorings, it's really important. We have to arrange ourselves. Are we doing it well? Are we ready? Instead of making it more reactive, we can think about more proactive. Like when I say reactive, yes, we're going to find some vulnerabilities. It's great, but try to think about to address those known vulnerabilities, plan accordingly as making proactive. You should create your bill of materials, software bill of materials as an SBOM. But make sure that we're kind of following the IAC, infrastructure as a code. Make sure you're following the right provisioning script. Make sure you're following right monitoring. Do you be ready for any systems out that you may have in the loops, in the potentials, right? So basically insert your proactive thinking as early as the life cycles. So I'm going to hand over to you, Joe. I mean, I kind of run quickly on fourth and fifth one. You want to chime anything about the guidance and also lack of the skills?
Yeah, if we go back to skills, yeah, I flip-flopped on this, right? We used to say, hey, you bring everyone together. I don't need devs to be security experts. I just need security experts on the team. But I've changed, right? I realize now you really do need security-minded devs. You need both. And I need security specialists that kind of have some insight into the techniques and things developers do, right? So we do need to educate this community. We need cyber, aware developers. We also need dev-minded security specialists. Really important. You probably don't have enough security people on a team. There's all these policies, there's guidance. There's so much that has to happen. You're probably understaffed. If you're doing it well, you have some unicorns on your team, right? If you do this well today, you likely have some overachievers, right? We need to get beyond that, right? We need to have the right kind of talent, build enough people to do this job. If you want quality, you need a large skill set. 100%. This has got to get better, right? How's it get better? We all get on the same page. We understand the pain points of what we're doing. Security standards. Here's the good news. Some of this is really easy to start with, right? If I want to get some basic security analysis, it's available. It's really simple. Start, like Hasan said, don't try to do everything at once. Just make sure you start with some static analysis. Get it in your pipeline. Every commit should do linting and code analysis. Begin to understand who looks at that analysis and make sure it's good enough, right? There's where our policy comes in. Which policy do I adopt? Good news is there's a lot of good standards, right? We can go reach out to our industry leaders or we can go look at OWASP recommendations. This is where you want to go to these people providing guidances, right? These foundations providing policy and standards. Get in there, get in with your community. Go to conferences. Hasan and I were at a big conference last week, right, Hasan, where we got to hear what's going on in industry. It's really important to attend these, participate in them, hear what's out there, and then go back to your organization saying, hey, I learned something. Let's try to do this. And overall, if you're a leader, right, if you're a leader in your organization, you need to guide your organization saying we care about quality and security. And I'm going to break down the barriers that aren't allowing us to do this, right? I'm going to give you more time to get this done right. Maybe the most important thing, right, Hasan, is getting the correct mindset amongst from top down to support this.
Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you so much. I'm going to cover up the one more slide. I know we're running out of time. And one is the sustaining your DevSecOps environment, which is very interesting. I know it's a top 5 challenge to overcome, but there is also another challenge. It's kind of isolated from top. Make sure that you are creating an environment and ecosystem so you're effectively using those infrastructures, and you should be ready for maintaining those infrastructures. There's the 2 elements. Like we're going to use effectively means let all the stakeholders be able to use DevSecOps ecosystems. Make sure that your developer is ready to start right away. Make sure that people are knowledgeable enough to understand where you have your policies, how you're going to follow the common services, what are the common security postures you would like to follow it. In the meantime, make sure that your infrastructure that you're building ready for any updates. Don't make it the tools is staying forever without having an update. Make sure that you're updating and following the right policies on your infrastructure pieces, and then you're securing your pipeline. Make sure that you're maintaining your pipeline as your infrastructure, so developers will be happy to do that. What are you going to do next? Assess your environments to where you are. Identify the quick wins based on the 5 challenges that we have listed. And try to build up a champions, empower for the security persons or the developer. Make sure that people are able to do their jobs and then highlight the accomplishments. Maybe you can use the Friday afternoons can acknowledge those people are doing very well. And then measure your results, where you are, what is your objectives, and then repeat again where you are based on the feedback you're collecting, and reassess the gaps. Try to build up the quick wins. Every time you can iteratively, incrementally, you're going to build your DevSecOps journey to overcome the 5 challenges that you may have. And we have a couple more minutes for the questions. I guess we can share the slides quickly. And I'm assuming that people can download later on. So I'm going to pause it here and hand over to the share for any questions you may have in the chat rooms.
Yeah, we had a question from Ben asking, you guys mentioned the value of tool integration for gaining visibility into value streams. How do you extract the data, for example, input, output of every tool or stage in the pipeline, and display the insights?
It's a great question, Shane. I think we have a write-up and blog post on that topic, but I'm going to say quickly, every tool is generating data. Every tool, we should able to get data from the tools and monitor it. There are great monitoring tools available. And then you may have individual dashboard for each of the tools, but ideally, you should pipe those results from any tools, pipe into your dashboard, and try to visualize in a common dashboard, and you can see the value of the tool and overall your journeys to the product specific. You may use and there are many available, like there's open source tools, there are many commercial tools you can utilize, but the key point is here, there is a way to collect the data instead of in the individual dashboard. Try to pipe into your monitoring tools and then visualize it as above the DevSecOps level that you may think about. There's some blog posts. If you guys reach out to me, I will share the more content in it. I think we have a blog post we did last year, either a podcast or the blog post series we have done it.
We're at 11 o'clock. So Joe, Hasan, thank you so much for the discussion today and sharing your guys' expertise.
All right. Thanks, Shane. Thanks, Hasan.
Thank you.
And we'd like to thank you all for attending today. Upon exiting, please hit the like button below the video window and share the archive if you found value today. Also, you can subscribe to the SEI's YouTube channel by clicking on the SEI seal in the lower right corner of the video window. We'd like to invite you to join us for DevSecOps Days Pittsburgh. This is a free virtual event on Thursday, May 11th. Registration information is available on our website now and will be emailed out as well. Any questions from today's event, please send to info@sei.cmu.edu. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.